Imagine this: you wake up one morning, 70 years old, and you realize you spent your entire life chasing the wrong things. Every missed birthday, every skipped conversation, every later you promise yourself, it's gone. And suddenly you understand time doesn't wait. Meet Michael, David, and Robert, men just like you and me, who thought success meant working harder, playing safe, or being right all the time. But what they didn't realize was life was slipping through their fingers, one choice at a time. Michael spent decades building a perfect house, but when he finally retired, he was alone. David avoided every risk, chasing comfort instead of courage, and now his life feels empty. Robert let his ego control him, losing his brother forever, all over words that could have been forgiven. These aren't just stories, they're warnings. Every day you delay saying, I love you. Every moment you choose comfort over courage. Every second you waste thinking there's more time. You're giving away pieces of your life you can never get back. In the next few minutes, you're going to hear their journeys, their regrets, and the harsh truth about what really matters in life. By the end of this video, you'll either start living or risk looking back one day, just like them, wishing for what you let slip away. So watch closely. Feel every emotion, because this is not just a story. It's a mirror for your own life. And if you don't act now, one day you might be telling yourself the hardest word of all. I thought I had more time, but I didn't. At 72 years old, Michael sat alone in his quiet home, staring at a life he spent decades building. Everything looked perfect. A large house, expensive furniture, a successful career. But there was one thing missing: people, holding an old photo in his shaking hands. He whispered words that hit harder than anything. I thought I had more time. Michael wasn't always like this. In his 20s, he was just a young man with big dreams and a powerful reason to succeed. He grew up in a small town, watching his parents struggle to pay bills, sometimes choosing between rent and food. That pain shaped him, and he made a promise to himself. One day, I'll make it. My family will never struggle like this. And he meant every word. So he started working hard. While his friends went out on weekends, Michael stayed late at work. While others spent time with loved ones, he chased promotions, money, and stability. He believed one thing: success first, everything else later. Eventually, life started to improve. He got married to a kind, supportive woman who believed in him. She stood by his side through the long nights, the stress, and the endless work hours. Then came the day his first child was born. Michael held his baby in his arms, feeling a kind of happiness he had never experienced before. For a moment, nothing else mattered. But then, his phone buzzed. Work. He gently handed the baby back and stepped outside to take the call. Just a few more years, he told his wife later. Let me build something first. Then I'll give you all the time you deserve. She smiled, but deep down she started waiting. Years passed. Michael's career took off. Promotions came. His income grew. He bought a bigger house, a nicer car, and gave his family a comfortable life. From the outside, everything looked perfect. But inside the home, something was slowly breaking. His kids started growing up without him. School plays, birthdays, little victories. Michael missed most of them, not because he didn't care, but because he always believed there would be another chance. I'll make it to the next one. I'm just busy right now. We'll spend time this weekend. But weekends turned into work days, and next time never came. His wife noticed the distance growing. At first, she waited for him at dinner. Then she stopped. Conversations became shorter. Laughter became rare. The home that once felt warm slowly became quiet. One night, she looked at him and said something simple but powerful. We don't need more money, we need you. But Michael, tired and stressed, replied without thinking, I'm doing all this for you. And just like that, something changed. Because in his mind, he was sacrificing for his family. But in reality, he was losing them. Time moved forward, as it always does. His kids grew up. They stopped expecting him to show up. They stopped sharing their lives with him. Slowly, they built a world where he wasn't needed anymore. And his wife, she stopped waiting completely. They still lived in the same house. But emotionally, they were miles apart. Years later, Michael finally reached a point he had always dreamed of: financial success. He retired with more than enough money to live comfortably for the rest of his life. For the first time in decades, he had time. But now, there was no one to share it with. His children were busy living their own lives. Conversations felt polite, but distant. His wife had changed. She had learned how to live without him. The connection they once had was gone. Michael tried to fix things. He planned dinners. He tried to reconnect. He made an effort. But relationships don't work like that. You can rebuild a business. You can earn money again. But lost time? You never get that back. One evening, sitting alone in his beautiful home, Michael looked around and realized something painful. He had spent his whole life building a future that no longer included the people he built it for. That's when it hit him. Hard. All those moments he delayed were moments he lost forever. All those times he said later. Life quietly said too late. With tears in his eyes, he whispered, "I was so busy trying to build a life that I forgot to live one." Now at 72, he has everything he once dreamed of, but the laughter is gone, the connection is gone, the time is gone, and all that's left is regret. At 61 years old, David sat quietly in a corner of a small cafe, listening to his old friends laugh. One friend was talking about the company he built from scratch. Another shared stories of traveling across Europe and Asia. Someone else joked about the risks he took in his 30s that almost ruined him, but ended up changing his life. Everyone had a story. Everyone had something to say, except David. He smiled, nodded, even laughed at the right moments. But deep inside, something didn't feel right, because when it was his turn to speak, he had nothing. No big risks, no big failures, no bold decisions, just a safe life, a quiet life, a life that never really pushed beyond its limits. As he looked down at his coffee, now cold, he whispered to himself, "What did I actually do with my life?" David wasn't always like this. In his 20s, he was full of energy, ideas, and ambition. He didn't just want a normal life. He wanted something bigger. He used to tell his friends, "I'm not going to work a 9 to 5 forever. One day, I'm starting my own business. I want freedom, not routine." And back then, he believed it. After college, David got a job offer. It wasn't his dream job, but it was stable. Good salary, steady growth, no real risk. So he told himself something simple. "I'll do this for a year or two, then I'll chase my dream." That sounded reasonable, smart, even, but life has a way of making temporary decisions feel permanent. A year passed, then another. Every time David thought about leaving his job, starting something new, or taking a risk, that quiet voice showed up again. What if it doesn't work? What if you fail? What if you lose everything? And slowly, that voice became stronger than his dreams. One day, his best friend Jake approached him with an idea. A small startup. Nothing guaranteed. High risk, but high potential. For a moment, David felt that old excitement again. This was it. This was the chance he had been waiting for. But then reality hit. Bills, responsibilities, stability, and of course, fear. So he said, "I'm not ready yet." Jake moved forward without him. Years later, that small idea turned into a successful business. David watched from a distance, congratulating his friend while quietly asking himself, what if I had said yes? Time kept moving. David kept working. Promotions came. Salary increased. His life became more comfortable. He bought a house, built a routine. Everything felt stable. And that's what made it dangerous. Because comfort doesn't feel like a trap when you're inside it. It feels safe. At 40, David once again thought about starting something on his own. He had experience now, skills, even some savings. But something had changed. He had gotten used to his lifestyle, used to the routine, used to the paycheck. The risk that once felt exciting now felt terrifying. So once again, he said, maybe later, but later has a way of disappearing. At 50, he noticed something different. His energy wasn't the same. His willingness to take risks had faded. The hunger he once had was gone. And in its place, doubt, regret, and a quiet realization that time was running out. Now at 61, sitting in that cafe, listening to others talk about the lives they lived, David finally understood something most people realize too late. He didn't fail because he tried and lost. He failed because he never gave himself the chance to try. After the gathering ended, he walked home alone. The streets were quiet, but his mind wasn't. Memories started replaying in his head. The business he never started, the risks he avoided, the chances he ignored. Each one felt like a door he never opened. And now, those doors were gone. That night, sitting in the dark, David said something that perfectly described his life. I played it safe and it cost me everything. Because here's the truth. Fear doesn't destroy your life all at once. It does it slowly, silently, one decision at a time. Every time you say, I'll do it later, every time you choose comfort over growth, every time you avoid risk because it feels scary, you move one step closer to regret. And in the end, people don't regret the things they tried and failed at. They regret the things they never had the courage to try. David didn't lose because life was unfair. He didn't lose because he wasn't capable. He lost because he waited too long. And now, sitting alone with nothing but thoughts and memories, he finally understands the biggest risk in life is not taking one. At 68 years old, Robert stood in front of a quiet grave, his hands trembling, his eyes filled with tears he had held back for years. The wind was cold, but not as cold as the feeling inside his chest. He stared at the name on the gravestone, his younger brother, Daniel. And for the first time in his life, Robert felt completely powerless. Not because of death, but because of something far worse. Words he never said. Robert was known as a strong man, confident, respected, successful, the kind of man who always had control. But behind that strength was something dangerous. Ego. Growing up, Robert and Daniel were inseparable. They shared everything, secrets, dreams, struggles. No matter what happened, they always had each other's backs. If Robert got into trouble, Daniel was there. If Daniel needed help, Robert showed up. They weren't just brothers. They were best friends. As they grew older, life took them in different directions. Careers, responsibilities, families, but the bond was still there. Or at least, it seemed like it. One day, during a family gathering, a small argument started. Something simple, something meaningless. A disagreement over money or maybe pride. No one even remembered exactly how it started. But what mattered was how it ended. Voices got louder. Emotions took over. And in a moment of anger, Robert said something he could never take back. I don't need you. The room went silent. Daniel looked at him, hurt in his eyes, but he didn't argue. He just nodded and walked away. That was the last real conversation they ever had. Days passed, then weeks, then months. At first, Robert expected Daniel to call. He'll come around, he told himself. He knows I didn't mean it. But the call never came. Deep down, Robert knew he could fix it. All he had to do was pick up the phone. Say two simple words. I'm sorry. But his ego wouldn't let him. Because, in his mind, why should I apologize first? He was wrong, too. If he cares, he'll call. So he waited and waited. Years passed. Family gatherings became uncomfortable. People stopped mentioning Daniel around Robert. The silence between them grew heavier with time. But still, no call, no apology, no closure. Life moved on. Robert focused on his work, his own family, his routine. But every now and then, something would remind him of Daniel. A memory, a joke, a place they used to go. And for a moment, he would think about reaching out. But then that same voice would return. It's too late now. What if he rejects you? Just leave it. And once again, he chose silence. One day, Robert got a phone call. A call that would change everything. Daniel was in the hospital. Serious condition. For a moment, Robert froze. This was it. This was his chance to fix everything. To finally say what he should have said years ago. He rushed to the hospital. His heart was racing. His mind was full of words he had held inside for so long. I'm sorry. I miss you. I was wrong. He was ready to say it all. But when he arrived, it was too late. Daniel was gone. The world around him felt like it stopped. All those years of silence, all those chances he had, gone, forever. At the funeral, Robert stood quietly, unable to process the weight of what had happened. People cried, prayed, shared memories. But Robert, he just stood there, broken. Later, when everyone left, he walked up to the grave, slowly, painfully, as if every step carried years of regret. He dropped to his knees, and for the first time in decades, he cried, not like a strong man, not like someone in control, but like a brother who had lost something he could never get back. Through tears, he whispered, "I'm sorry. I should have said it sooner." But the silence gave no answer, because the truth is, ego doesn't feel dangerous in the moment. It feels like pride, like strength, like self-respect. But over time, it destroys everything. Robert spent years being right, but in the end, being right cost him his relationship, his brother, his chance to make things right. Now at 68, he carries a pain that never leaves, not because of what happened, but because of what didn't. The apology he never made, the call he never placed, the love he never expressed. Because here's the reality. Time doesn't wait for your ego. People don't stay forever. And chances don't always come back. In the end, it doesn't matter who was right or wrong. What matters is, did you choose love or pride? Because one day, just like Robert, you might find yourself standing in front of someone you love with a heart full of words and no time left to say them. At 83 years old, Thomas lay quietly in a hospital bed, staring at the ceiling as machines softly beeped around him. The room was calm, too calm, the kind of calm that only comes when life is slowly reaching its end. Doctors had already said it. There wasn't much time left, and for the first time in his life, Thomas wasn't thinking about money. He wasn't thinking about success. He wasn't thinking about achievements. He was thinking about his life, not the highlights, not the moments he showed the world, but the moments he lost. As he closed his eyes, memories began to replay like scenes from a movie. Moments he once thought were small now felt like everything. His daughter asking him to attend her school play. His son waiting for him to come home early just once. His wife sitting quietly at the dinner table, hoping for a conversation. Moments he always postponed. Moments he believed he could come back to later. Not today. I'm busy. We'll do it next week. I just need a little more time. But now, lying in that hospital bed, he realized something terrifying. Later never came. Tears slowly rolled down his face. Because the truth was clear now. Life didn't run out of time. He did. All those years he spent chasing more money, more success, more security. And yet, the one thing he actually needed, he gave away without thinking. Time. A nurse walked in quietly and asked, "Is there anything you need?" Thomas looked at her, his voice weak, but his words heavy. "I need more time." But deep down, he already knew that was the one thing no one could give him. Later that day, his family came to visit. They stood around him, his children, now grown, his wife, older but still there. They loved him, but something felt different. The connection wasn't as deep as it could have been. The conversations were gentle, but distant, polite, but not warm. And that's when it hit him the hardest. It wasn't that he had no family. It was that he had lost a chance to truly live with them. He looked at his son and said softly, "I'm sorry I wasn't there when you needed me." His son smiled, but there was pain behind it, because some wounds don't disappear. They just become silent. He turned to his daughter. "I wish I could go back just to watch you grow up again." She held his hand tightly, but time doesn't move backward. Finally, he looked at his wife, the woman who stayed, the woman who waited, the woman who deserved more. His voice broke as he said, "You gave me your whole life, and I gave you what was left of mine." Tears filled her eyes, because she knew it was true. In that moment, surrounded by the people he loved, Thomas understood something most people realize too late. At the end of life, you don't regret what you didn't buy. You don't regret working less. You don't regret taking breaks. You regret the moments you missed, the time you didn't give, the people you didn't choose. Because life isn't measured in years. It's measured in moments. And most people don't lose their life all at once. They lose it slowly, one busy day at a time, one missed moment at a time, one "I'll do it later" at a time. Thomas spent his whole life preparing for future, but he never realized life was happening in the present. As the night grew darker, the room became quieter. The machines continued their steady rhythm. Thomas took a deep breath and whispered something that carried the weight of his entire life. "I had everything, but I missed what mattered." And that's the truth most people don't want to hear. You can build a career. You can make money. You can achieve success. But none of it matters if you don't have people to share it with. Time is the real wealth. Not money, not status, not success. Because money can come back. Opportunities can come back. But time, once it's gone forever. So before it's too late, ask yourself, are you truly living or just staying busy? Are you choosing what matters or what looks important? Because one day, you won't wish for more money. You won't wish for more success. You'll wish for one simple thing: more time. And by then, it might already be too late.